Hi, I'm Ralph Laughton, and in this series of videos I'm going to show you how we built this simple hall table. Today we're going to build a hall table. I built one of these a few years ago in pine, and I thought it was time we made an oak one. So we have the timber prepared already here. It's fairly simple, as you can see. This is the bulk of it. There's a few more little bits that make up the drawer, but this is the main frame. It's a long, narrow table, so that it fits in a hall and doesn't get in the way, and it's somewhere to place your bits and pieces. These are the end rails, so you can see it's not a very wide table. These will be the longitudinal rails. These are the legs, 4 there. These bits will become the stretchers that hold the legs in the right place. And then we have 2 other pieces here which we're going to join together to make the top. The first thing we've got to do here is decide which on the orientation of the oak to get the best match. So I think we'll go there. I think once we turn that one over, it's worth messing about with this for a bit to see what looks nice. This is how it's going to be joined together, but as I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there is a bit of a gap here. Although this has been prepared already, it's not been matched, so we want to make that gap disappear really. So what we need to do is to shoot both these edges to match each other. The first thing we're going to do is to mark the 2 pieces as face, and then we're going to just put a couple of witness marks across it, just so that we know where we really want it to align, because by the time we've put it in and out of the vise a few times, it's quite hard to keep track of which way round things are. So let's start with this one. Now the aim here is to make sure that we get this edge perfectly smooth, perfectly flat and perfectly square to the face. So I'll just put it in the vise, check the grain direction, which is going to be a bit awkward because it's running in both directions. It's not too bad here, most of it's running in that direction upwards, so we'll put it in the vise that way round, nice and tight, good and firm, and use a jack plane here to take the first few cuts. You can hear it cutting, hitting and missing as we go. That's where it's just hitting on the high points. This has been ripped to size on a bandsaw, so there's lots of vertical lines down it where the saw's actually cut. Now you could use a longer plane for this, but a jack plane on something this long is perfectly adequate. What we haven't done yet is check for square. I can feel that this is reasonably square. I know that it would have started off, even though it was rough, it would have been fairly square, because I know that the bandsaw blade is square to the table and the face was on the table when it was ripped to width. Let's just check it for square. And it's actually sloping down towards me a little bit, so I need to just concentrate on taking some off the high side. This could all be done on a planer thicknesser, but when you're making a bit of furniture, at least when I'm making a bit of furniture, it's the building that I enjoy, so this is all good fun as far as I'm concerned. Now that's squared that off quite nicely. We now need to check that it's actually flat. It could be smooth, but it could be like that. The length of the plane will maintain a certain amount of straightness, and you can use the arris of the plane just to check that it's flat. So there we go, nice and smooth. Let's get the other half of this board. Check our witness marks, which are on my side, so you can't see them. But as you can't see them, it proves they must be on my side. And no daylight. So there we are. We're ready to go to the next stage. Now, I could just glue those up as they are. I'd have to make sure that it was perfectly flat across here. And they would probably glue up okay. But sometimes when you put the glue on the joint, you apply the clamping pressure, and within the cramps, if that is slightly sloped, in other words, if it's not perfectly square, you may find that it just eases off a little bit, or if the pressure is uneven. Now that little ridge that would result would take an awful lot of work to rectify. So some form of alignment between the two boards is quite a good idea. We could use biscuits or dowels. We're not looking for adding any strength, because the glue, modern glues, the glue joint is so strong when you're joining two boards edge to edge, that the glue joint is going to be stronger than the wood itself. So no amount of dowels is going to make any difference, because if you glued that together and tried splitting it, it would probably split here somewhere anyway. They're purely there to make a good alignment between the two boards. A method I quite like to use is to run a groove through here and drop a plywood tongue into it, and a groove in the other piece, of course. Put them together. That stops the boards doing that during cramping, and we get a good flat joint. Now, in order to do that, we need to obviously cut a groove in here, but we don't want that groove to extend beyond where we're going to trim these to length, because you'd have an ugly piece of plywood sticking out of the end, which would look a bit out of place. It's easily rectified. All we need to do is to lay our boards out. Let's clear away some of these stones. It's always a good idea to try and keep your bench clear. Makes life easier. Don't always do it, and I regret it afterwards. Put things away as you don't need them. So here's our two boards. Now we know that the table length, finished table length, is 850, and even on the shorter board we've got well over 900 here. So what we need to do is to align our boards, give ourselves a little bit of trimming room on that end, and mark just approximately 850, 860, beg your pardon. Takes us to there. Now that's where the board is going to trim, but we don't want the tongue to be anywhere near that. So if we come back, say 20 millimeters on each end, 20 millimeters in here, we then want our groove to run from this point here to this point here on both boards. There are several ways we could do this. We could do it on a router table, but the amount of setting up involved in doing that for a single board like this is probably more than it's worth. So all we're going to do here is we're going to clamp this board to the edge of the bench. We're going to use a router, which I've already set up here with a slotting cutter, bit of dust extraction, and we're going to cut that groove from there to there on both boards.